Table Talk with Brenda Perryman is brought to you by Livingston Family Dentistry.
Livingston Family Dentistry knows that good dental care ensures overall wellness, and healthy teeth and gums can perfect your smile. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Ronald and Dr. Blake Livingston take the time to explain every treatment. Their modern office and friendly staff are committed to making you feel comfortable, informed, and satisfied. Located at 13724 Woodward in Highland Park, call now 313 883 3050. If your teeth are not becoming to you,
then you should be coming to us.
Good morning. Good morning. I am back. I am back with my esteemed panel. Introduce yourselves, even though you were just on the last show.
I'm Ellis Liddell, and I enjoy being on with Ms. Perriman. I own ELE Wealth Management, where we help people to manage their wealth, no matter how much it is,
You mean no matter how much it is?
no matter how large, no matter how small. You know, they
Well,
said large first.
oh,
It's
so
very true. He followed up with me, and mine isn't large at all.
and mine, please, mine took a hit. So, okay, I'll be checking with you. Checking with you.
AJ Williams, editor for Michigan Chronicle City Lifestyle, and editor in chief or blogger in chief at Single Black Chick.
And Daryl Buchanan, community activist.
Oh, yes, community out, and Kappa Man.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Well, we have some good topics for you today. We'll probably get into a little girl talk against guy talk or for guy talk and stuff later. We're going to get to it. So we started nice and early, and we can do that. The first article that we were going to talk about is what Dan Gilbert did. He wrote a letter saying that the reputation of the city is the reason we didn't get the Amazon headquarters. Who wants to start speaking to that?
I only have one point, and then I'm gonna back out. I'm gonna let the community activists and everybody in the wealth take care of it. Um, I think right. I think it's very interesting. I'm not shocked, by Dan Gilbert's letter. I'm not shocked by his idea or his position. It's really unfortunate that it's set up from the way that it's supposed to be. The city, New Detroit, has this whole new marketing scheme. It's a very good marketing scheme. It looks very great on the outside. It is shiny. It is bright. It's come to Detroit. It has nothing to do with the reputation because when you get down to it, companies like Amazon, who know how future casting works as far as growth is concerned, is understanding that the fact that yes, Detroit is very shiny, but it lacks a depth of substance when it comes with talent, when it comes with mass transportation. So all of these tax breaks that are given to companies like Dan Gilbert, where it should be focused on education, where it should be focused on mass transit, where we can look to the future and bring in companies like Amazon, we're not doing it. We're a big New Detroit is a very good marketing scheme, but it's like putting new clothes on old bodies, on a dirty body rather. So it's good on the outside, but we're rotting from the inside. The root isn't strong. So Amazon was like, no. That's my one point.
Ellis?
Uh, okay, I'm still getting past the decay that she just described. She did a good job of describing the decay. Let me just say this here, and it's kind of funny I say decay because Dan Gilbert referred to Detroit as a rust bucket.
I saw that
Yeah, he
in a
referred
rust belt.
in the rust belt. Uh, Let me just say this here: Amazon probably already knew from the beginning who they were going to go with, and because they already had a good sense of where they were going to land, Austin, Texas, or one other place, because they already had a good sense of it, everybody else had to really step their game up to get this second North American headquarters. Now, do we have challenges with education? Absolutely. Do we have challenges with mass transit? Absolutely. But at some point, in what Dan Gilbert was saying, we have to make a correction within ourselves so that other people will say, in spite of your challenges, we're going to still help you. That's the part that's missing. Our government, starting from the governor all the way down, who gave his last speech the other day, uh, he will never wash off the dirt from Flint. no
Absolutely.
matter what he
That's
does.
true.
I mean, that's one of those things that will last for hundreds of years because the people will be sick for 100 years, or they will have children that are sick.
Generational.
Generational. So when you have that kind of history, it's a whole lot of cleaning up that needs to be done. And Dale Gilbert was the first to say, "I'll throw down my gauntlet and say, we got some stuff we got to do in this region." And yes, he's benefited, as you stated, from some of the taxes, but so would Amazon. There's no way Amazon's going to come here without benefits. Everybody's coming because they figure if we're going to bring in that many jobs, the city's going to make money off the taxes and everything else that goes with being located in Detroit. So there we go.
I see the problem as being much older than that. And I look at it in terms of the leadership that exists in Oakland and Macomb County and in Wayne County. I mean, those three entities needed to come together and have a much more comprehensive and strong package. We missed this years ago. We didn't miss it just now. We missed this because of I'll just put it out there, the racism that exists in this region, okay? And the fact that we live with a sense of otherism, you know, that xenophobia and racism that exists in this region that prevented us from coming together with a comprehensive mass transit plan. That mass transit plan was really the key because if you're going to try to attract millennials, millennials are already coming out of college strapped with all kinds of debt. They don't want cars, okay? Cars is not anything that's in. So the areas where they're moving and where there's this innovation taking place are areas that have, you know, mass transit. We're starting to develop, you know, a new culture within Detroit, and that's fine, okay? But these other factors are the ones that I really feel hindered us from getting that. And mass transit was a major, major part of it. I mean, we just had that millage defeated, what, 2 years ago? The year before last?
Exactly.
Yes.
And that, I mean, that was nothing but we don't want these people coming in our community.
Well, I
Not
think
understanding
I-
that, you know,
Yeah.
that really,
it's
It
the way
will
it was shaped.
bite
It-
you in the
well, it was
tail.
the way it was shaped, though.
I agree with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it's the way it was shaped. However, I agree. We need mass transit to catch up. Otherwise, Detroit's going to be a city that's left behind. Now, how can you be left behind in Detroit when you were the transportation capital of the world?
Well,
Right.
I mean, very true. But I think I totally agree with your point. If you're talking about, and I think some of the times that we've talked before, it's about progression of where society is headed. And true enough, things of old and reputations and things like that. However, there's a ton of cities that are progressively doing better than Detroit that doesn't have as good of reputation
And
as
some,
Detroit.
some of those on that list
Thank you.
have crime. They have all of that. But you know, but they'll have a mass transit
They'll have a
system.
mass transit
They'll have a
system.
mass transit system. Also, I mean, when I looked at what they wanted as far as mass transit, I I wasn't seeing it as being a swift. You know, you need something to get you somewhere fast. That's the thing with
Okay.
their mass
And,
transit.
okay, so when I lived in Chicago, I told you, I lived in Chicago for 13 years. In Chicago, you can get on the rail system and go anywhere. Okay.
Right.
I remember once my wife was coming to Detroit. She went to work that morning. Okay, but she took everything with her, and then she took the train from work back to the airport and flew home.
Right.
We don't have it like that. We don't have it. I mean, you have to have a car for everything. And understood. I mean, this is the car capital of the world.
Yes.
So everybody here had to buy a car, right? I
right,
mean,
yes.
that was.
It's
and-
how the city is built. The
That's
infrastructure
understood.
is built. Yeah.
But I remember when I was working in the telecommunications industry, and all of a sudden the technology changed and everything started to merge, and then we had to understand that we were no longer in the telephone business.
Right.
We were in the IT business, and if we didn't change, we were going to be gone. So, that's kind of the mindset that needs to take place here. Are we going to be in the auto industry? Or are we going to be in the mobility industry?
Right.
Giving people the ability to move around, not necessarily with cars and, everybody's got to have a car. I mean, that's not going to work. That's old thinking.
I totally agree with you. What I like to And Ms. Perryman, I would love to hear your opinion in regards, especially being an educator, as far as how low we are in comparison to the other cities when it comes to education. I mean, if you want to go all the way back, I'm a product of going to school during the time when the state took over, where arts were taken out, where I mean, I used to be proud to be a DPS, seeing where the
What
educational
high school
system,
did you
I went to
attend?
Persian.
Oh, okay.
Hey, boys.
Doughboys,
But I was in the midst of going to school where we were at the top, where we had arts, we had educational programming that was, if you weren't able to afford those type of things within your home, school was the place to go for that. I also went through the decline of it to where my younger brothers didn't have the opportunities that I had when I was just in high school. You talking about being in preparation, ready for college. I got shocked, and I was at the top of my class at Persian be to get my first year in college. It was a shock. It's a preparation perspective where you come to a city where people want to stay in the city, want to be educated here, and are good products of the city and the educational system, where you don't have to bring half or 75% of your people or draw them, or all this marketing to draw educated millennials here. They're already being developed here.
yes, but so many leave.
Yeah, and that's a
So
great
many
point.
leave, which is the issue. By the way, if you want to call in, we have a different number to call in this morning, 313-365-7379. Now, one thing about the educational system, now I've worked in two districts. I've worked in Highland Park and I worked in Southfield. When I left Highland Park, well, we used to put on, we still had a band and we still played music and vocal. But as time went on, and we did drama, of course, as time went on, those things started to leave. After I left, I noticed they started to leave. And then went to Southfield, where it was like heaven. I said, oh my God, they still have theater going on, they still have everything. I'm telling you, the STEM programs are great, but the STEAM program, adding the
Thank you.
arts in, is much, much better because the arts entice you to think a different way.
Yes.
I mean, some students stay in school because of the arts. You have to get to all these young people. What's happening now, Detroit is trying to come back public schools, but they let so many things go for so long, it's going to take so much longer to get back. And when you talk about corporations coming here and everything, you want that the students or the young people to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, not just be a box handler, stuffing boxes to send with Amazon. You want them to be able to move up the ladder.
Absolutely. And corporations want that too. They don't want people to just come in and stay in that position. That position is for you to learn, that aspect of the business and then advance beyond
Let me
that.
tell you a great case in point. A former student of mine, a mentee, we do plays together too. She graduated from Tennessee State. She has Spanish was her major, absolutely, but she's at Chrysler right now, and because of her ability to think and organize, in this last year since she's been there, she has been moving up. They've been taking her ideas, her education. She has a good education and she has a good way of looking at things where they're getting ready to model something after the way she does her area. And I mean, yes, I am so proud of her. But see, the thing is, I know people, old school, I'm just going to say this, graduated from Cass and other places who were able to step right out of Cass and they almost had the knowledge of a college graduate
Right.
and have been very successful. And they did go to college, a lot of them. But
Well, as sitting here with a 14-year-old who's in the school system, not Detroit, but in the school system, I can tell you, American students went from a period where there was little homework they had to do to my daughter goes to sleep about between 11:30 p.m. and 12 each night from homework. Now she's got a work ethic; she doesn't mind doing that, and they've got groups where they communicate with each other to talk about, did you do this project? Did you do that project? So she's not, in other words, she's an academician. She's somebody who cares about academics. But as a parent, no matter who you are in today's society, you always wonder, is she positioning herself to compete with the other students around the United States? In spite of how long it takes to get homework done and how much is being thrown at her, is it developing that critical part of her mind like you talked about the lady from Chrysler?
Right.
Because if you're not developing the critical part of the mind, you'll get out here and you're an academic, but you need critical thinking and you don't have it. So,
Right.
yes.
It's the people who average a C are the ones that run everything. So you can have people that are brilliant, okay? And they're so narrowly focused in their way of thinking that they don't know how to think outside of the box.
That's where the arts come in. I'm telling you.
Exactly.
It does.
Exactly.
No, it
And
does.
so, and when we talk about the arts, we talked about this because, I was on the board when you were in, Southfield, and we missed you so much when you left because I noticed a serious change in our, theater program when you left. I mean, just the level, not being critical. I mean, but we weren't doing the same level of theater. So, I mean, your
Thank
efforts
you.
there were tremendous. But it's about relating, okay? Remember, we changed it from reading, writing, and arithmetic to, relevance, rigor, and relationships, okay? And if you aren't able to bring in, you got to have a hook to get young people to engage in education because everybody learns with a different learning method, okay? And that's something else that's come out. It's just not that, industrial-based learning method where the teacher sits in front, everybody sits in rows.
Right.
All of that has changed. And you have to address everybody's learning style differently if you're going to really have an impact on education.
Well, before I take the call, we have a call. I want to say one problem with schools or some teachers at schools. Some teachers believe that students learn just the way they do. And they did. And so they take it for granted. If you can't learn how I did,
Right.
well,
Something wrong with you.
there's something wrong with you, as opposed to looking at needs and adapting your teaching style to how can I focus on all of these students. That is so important. And then
Differentiated instruction.
engagement. You use the word engagement, and that is so important. I pick up my grandson from school. He's in 6th grade. I said, "How was school?" He says, "Good." And then he said, "It was okay." He said, "The teachers just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk." And it's like he's not being engaged. You have to engage. I think part of my success was the fact I engaged the students and they couldn't wait to get to my class. People didn't skip my class. I don't know. But we have Yvonne on the line. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Just fine.
And good morning to your guests.
Thank you.
I was listening to you, Ms. Pearson, when you first came on, and the young lady that was sitting there, you all was speaking about the negativity that the media, puts on Detroit, which we know that's nothing new. But we know there are a lot of good things about the city of Detroit, that they don't even mention. As far as where there once was a time where Detroit had a lot of homeowners, mainly black homeowners in the city of Detroit with beautiful homes. We also had, there was an interest in the education system, which we've seen that deliberately torn down and taken over, and where they have brought in teachers that don't even have to be certified to teach our children. They have torn down a lot of the schools in our neighborhoods, so we know all this has affected the city of Detroit. And as far as for that bus line that they want, I do believe the big three have input in that, and because of the big three, I feel like that would be a hindrance to Detroit getting that type of bus system. So there have been a lot of kickbacks against the city of Detroit. Detroit has offered a lot of great things to the people that work here and live here, and we can't forget our leadership, how they have came in and made some bad decisions as far as for the people that live here and that work here. And I can say this, since Coleman Young left, we haven't had another mayor to come in and show the interest for the city and for the people that live here and for the people that work here. That's my comment.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Comments? Any?
Well, again, I'm gonna go back and say we lost that bid a long time ago because we've never really had the value for education in this community that was necessary. You've heard me say this before. You know, you could graduate from high school or you could not graduate from high school. You'd be able to go to that factory and still live a middle income, a middle class lifestyle.
Upper.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so again, you could buy. And she said it. You could buy a house, a car, and a color TV, and everything was right with the world, right? Well, when those jobs started to leave, all of a sudden they started pointing the fingers at the school. It wasn't the school's fault. They didn't need a lot of highly educated people to be able to read a little bit, write a little bit, show up when that line started, and let's go. And that's all that was required here for this economy to go. So yes, the big three did have a major part in that because we weren't able to, cut the apron strings from being tied to the auto
Well,
industry
they
and
made,
diversify our
but they
economy.
made they're making people cut those apron strings
Just out
because
of
back in the
necessity.
day, you didn't have to take a test to go to Ford. You didn't have to do certain things. And I'm telling you, I see something, okay, this year they're getting bigger, these nice profit sharing checks, but also I see in the future those profit sharing checks going down, but not as quickly here in our region because we don't have a mass transit system.
I do agree with you from a perspective of growing up. I mean, even funny enough, kind of ahead to some of the topics. Um, kind of early in maybe towards the end of high school, my first years of college, that was the thing you wanted to get. You wanted to marry a guy who worked at the big three.
Thank you.
It was like that was the goal.
Yeah,
Like
he
let's
works at
get.
Ford.
He worked at Ford.
Yeah.
You gonna
Fords.
that.
Ford.
But
With the F.
when I got
Yes.
into the banking industry and prior to transitioning back over into journalism, I was a part of that whole like dealing with a lot of the fallout where people were getting a lot of the profit sharing checks, and it's never one issue. So I agree that Detroit has always been a very industrialized mindset type blue collar city.
Absolutely.
So you want to attract some new things, we do have to go through a kind of tearing down old ways and bringing in new opportunities and bringing in new thought patterns. Now we have to redirect on mass transit and on education, but also what you said as far as critical thinking, because even when those people came in with those profit sharing checks, and at the time I was doing wealth portfolio management for Fifth Third, and they were just like, I just want to like start buying properties. I'm like, that's like, no, don't do that. Let's not start buying properties. But it was no critical thinking from the perspective of I got this $60,000 check. What can I do to ensure my future? Because going back to it's just been an industrial mindset all along. Yeah, so I agree with that.
And you make a good point because growing up, every family, all my friends, dad worked in the factory, mom was some type of professional, okay, or semi-professional. But that was the makeup of the black community. That's why we had such a strong black middle class here in Detroit.
It really was.
Yeah, let me just say this here. I came to Detroit because when you, like the Amazon, I did the survey. What's the best city in America for an African American financial advisor to start his firm? It was Detroit. It's still Detroit because of the legacy of the factory worker and the educational environment. So we were positioned at one point to be a great city. It just that it didn't keep going. Now, if you erase the big three out of Detroit, no one's sitting on this place. We're Windsor.
Right.
Take them out. We're Windsor.
Yeah, we're still trying
That's
to.
true.
But that's
do,
the good thing,
fur
and that's
trading.
the fail. Like it's no diversity. It was no diversity. It was just the auto industry, and when that failed, the city failed.
Well, I look at Highland Park. I came to teach in Highland Park when this was the Chrysler's World headquarters.
Yeah.
And when they left, that tax base left,
Right.
and all of a sudden, I mean, people started kind of suffering here in the city. Stores were closing. We had Sears, all of that stuff on
Right there
Woodward.
on Woodward.
Highland Appliance, I mean, just
Oh, I remember
places.
Highland
When I was a
Appliance.
little boy, I lived on Colorado, right down the street from their headquarters. Okay, and the interesting thing about living there is that all of the executives and
They
managers,
did.
they all live right there. They would walk to work in the morning, so they'd walk right past my house. I'm a little boy. I go out and I could say hi. to everybody, and you see them. They would walk home for lunch and go back. That's how homogenous that community was back then. And you're absolutely right. When they left and moved out to Auburn Hills, you saw, I mean, that was the end of Highland Park. Highland Park was a beautiful city when I was a little
And
boy.
that's why I say that if you take away the big three, you got another Highland Park.
Yeah.
But you got worse than Highland Park. So we couldn't recruit banking in this area. No one can explain it. When you have three companies that deposit some of the largest deposits in the world, why wasn't this a major banking center?
And the banks
Good
that were
point.
here,
Yeah.
the banks that were here bought up banks around the country.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
So, I mean, they changed names from Detroit Bank and Trust and manufacturers. They changed their names. They became Chase. They became these other banks. But those banks originated here before they, started
But for
to.
strategic purpose, they did the same thing that Comerica did. They moved their regional location to another place because they were trying to get where the new place is going to be. Comerica benefited from moving to Texas and California.
Right. And there are people whose jobs it is, I forgot the title of the job, to foresee the future.
Correct. Which is what Amazon is doing. They're looking at where is it. So basically, Detroit has a lot of work to do to get on track so that we can have a strong, secure future so that our best and brightest don't have to always move away.
Right.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about best and brightest, and we talk about how our schools, our student population is going down, the problem is our kids, we're doing a great job of educating our kids, and they go to great institutions. Michigan State University, University of Michigan, Wayne State, they're going to these institutions of higher learning, and they're not coming back here. So that means that they're not coming back here, getting married, and starting their families here. And so the cycle just continues
The
on
brain
and
drain.
on and on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's more
Yeah.
than a brain drain.
But
okay?
one thing I noticed, and maybe I'm thinking kind of crazy, but what I like, because I know a lot of young people and they have got that entrepreneurial spirit like yourself. They're starting to set up their own businesses.
Let me just say this here. It is so, for a young person, it's so easy for them to start their business. Now, it's not easy ever. But in terms of, if you've never made $60,000 a year and you made 25 or 30, it's pretty easy to create a $30,000 a year income. That's not so hard. What gets hard is when a person's making $125,000, decides I'm going to leave my job, become an entrepreneur. Well, you have to do it times 3. You need to generate 3 times the amount you got paid to go to work every day
Absolutely.
at your own place.
Absolutely.
So that's what gets more challenging how do I go from making a living to earning a living and allowing others to make a living, hiring people to create a job, creating a business versus a job.
Well, what I notice is a lot of them don't work in a vacuum. They have their little empowerment discussions. They have so much support that wasn't around when I was coming. Now I've done little entrepreneurial things since I have been, I turned into an adult. I used to decorate cakes. I've been a travel agent. I've been everything, Maybe I'm half Jamaican. But
Many
and
jobs
so
done.
no, my family, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But didn't have any of the training, the focus. We just kind of out there on our own. Where there were people now, you can call people, they'll help you. There are people who provide workspaces for you
Yes.
at a very minimum cost. You could start your business, but like you say, you got to say, well, where's this business going to take me? You need a business plan. I didn't even know what a business plan was.
Yeah. Let me just say this here. In order for you to make money, you have to have laser focus on what it is that you want to do and who you want to help, like your blog. Laser focus, right?
Niche marketing.
Yeah. And then in order to get wealth, you have to diversify. And people get confused by that. Bill Gates, laser focus on what? Microsoft.
Right.
But believe it or not, in spite of having made a lot of money, he got his wealth when he diversified it, put the money in a foundation, and started investing in Facebook, Amazon. He invested in Apple, all these companies. Oprah will make more money
Not doing anything.
off Weight Watchers
Right. That's true.
than she did in any of her enterprises in a shorter period of time. Her Weight Watchers holding is headed to $1 billion almost, just from the shares she what she bought in Weight Watchers.
And
That's
what is she doing?
that's diversifying.
She's starting now. She's starting a food.
And she's starting a
The
food line.
food thing.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I don't know about that cauliflower. you know, that's the only thing that's turned me off. I've seen the commercials. I said cauliflower. I have never tasted a cauliflower in my life, and I guess maybe I should one day. Remember,
I will
you,
make
you
you some cauliflower.
oh,
Ah,
Roast
313-365-7379. We're going to move on to the next topic. As you know, Bill Cosby, or you might know, he performed or he did something in a club. He talked for like 45 minutes in a club in Philadelphia this weekend. And then he played the drums a little bit, and they invited the media. I know there was this woman who's 88. She was there. She's a friend of some friends of mine. In fact, she's a client of some friends of mine who live outside of Philadelphia. And she was there. And she said, golly, his thing was 45 minutes too long, say it was boring, all of this. But what do you think was the reason behind him doing that? Was it to create some other kind of media? What do you think?
yeah.
I,
Go on. No, you're the
well,
media.
being a person in media, I mean, if you invite people to come along with you, call it a press junket, call it a press screening, call it a media follow, whatever you want to call it, it's because you're trying to get this information out or a certain viewpoint of you out. It's very strategic. I don't think it's a good strategy, but it's a very strategic strategy with his trial coming up. It's trying to get him more visible because what you want to leave a lasting impression mentally in people's mind. And unfortunately, a lot of the of society is very gullible of just what the last impression you have of a person in your head is, oh, you know, Bill Cosby's back out here doing comedy and he's been gone for a while and XYZ,
And he hasn't been funny for a while.
and he hasn't been funny for a while. So people they're in media, I mean, I get the invites all the time. Come have some drinks with us. Come and do XYZ with us. Come and be a part of this. So you can put a positive spin on, well, the one night that I spent, the 45 minutes that I spent with Bill Cosby was he didn't seem very intrusive or he didn't seem XYZ. And you put your opinion out there and this gets ahead of his poll. It's very strategic on I think it's the legal defense team.
I just think he's a doddering old man. He doesn't know what to do with himself anymore. So, I mean, it's like, you know, he went out and, you know, he did the whole social activism and he was talking about, you know, the state of, you know, the black family.
Pull your pants up.
Pull your
Yeah.
pants up and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, then, you know, all these other things came out and it just blew all that away. And so he's been sitting quiet around the house. You know, Camille probably said, you're getting on my nerves. Why don't you just, you know, go do something? And he walks out and he goes and he calls some people up. I don't see it as anything that's going to help him.
I don't either.
I don't see how it's going to help him. You know, with the charges and with the Me Too going on now.
But that was the thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, at the end of the day, if you can have opinions back and forth on whether it's a strategy or not. It's my personal opinion that it is, because even if you just want to get out the house, Bill Cosby, you're not going to invite a whole media team to follow you around to do that. You just gonna go and have dinner or get up and talk and visit your friends, and that'll be it. However, I do need him to have several seats, because even in the midst of this, at the very end, with what you said as far as his comment to one of the reporters where he was shaking his hand or interacting with her, and he said, don't make me a part of Me Too.
Right.
I'm gonna need you to have several seats, Mr.
Several
Cosby.
seats.
Several seats.
Ellis?
You're right. The timing, of course. Now, most people remember that the case was a dead case. He moved on, but they didn't realize. Well, the prosecutor said, "No, we're gonna try you again." Now, most people would have been gone on with their lives, but he's getting called back up. What, a year and a half later, almost? And that year and a half later changed everything, because that Me Too movement, I mean, it took off. Look what's happening. The guy, Michigan State president, stepped down.
Right.
And the U.S. Olympic Committee is asking all the whole gymnastics, everyone on the board, to resign.
And I want to just interrupt with this. I was thinking this morning as I was getting ready to come here, I said November was a devastating year for a devastating month for a lot of people. And Kevin Spacey was knocked down. All these people were knocked down. It was like a sense of something.
If I'm Bill Cosby, I'm trying to get a postponement. I need another year.
I wonder if that, you make a good point. I wonder if that was part, because a lot of times on certain cases, and unfortunately on cases like these, they're kind of swept under the rug after the case goes dead. But, with it ending in a hung jury, but I wonder if the momentum behind Me Too is also a strategic perspective from the prosecution on bringing it back up again during this time.
That's a point.
Yeah, because the prosecutor wants to win.
Yeah, and that's always
Well, they want
problematic.
and they want to be able to make up something to all these other women who weren't involved in that
Yeah, where
trial.
the
And then
limitation is
they
went
put
out.
those faces out there. They put those women out there, those faces out there. They did specials on TV about these
Right.
women all around Bill Cosby. Of course, some of these women, and I gotta say this. This is a disclaimer. Some of these women went back. Okay, that one time with Bill Cosby, how he did you wrong and this, that, and the other thing, drugged you, and you're gonna go back.
Yes. Uh, like it was a hung jury for a reason. It was a hung jury because it was a lot of questions left. If I'm sitting on that jury, there's a lot of questions about who did this, who did that,
Right.
was it willing, was it not willing,
Right.
who's coming out just for the sake of trying to get their 15 minutes of fame because they missed their 15 minutes, so they want to get it. So it's a very challenging time and it's a very challenging case.
And I do want to say last week, because Ellis and I were here, we talked about the MSU president resigning, and which she did a couple of so days ago. Because you can't tell me she didn't know anything.
Well, I have to say, in my interactions with her,
I've
no,
interacted
oh,
too
no,
with
I'm
her.
I'm going back to my days as a student. She was
A
you know,
teacher.
she was a teacher then, okay, and I just cannot believe that if she knew anything about this, that she wouldn't have put that guy's head on a stick herself, okay. She's the leader. It goes to the top. We understand that, okay. But that is not. I've talked to some of the professors up there now. That's not the Luana Simon that they know. They know that this is a woman. This is a
But they
woman
say,
who is,
yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not dismissing what you say, even though it sounded like it. But the buck stops here.
and that's what I
When
said.
my
I
people
agree.
do something, I got to, I got to fall on my sword.
But I have to say this too. When I was on the board, I came out to a public. We were getting ready to go into our public meeting after sitting through a finance, meeting and looking at the numbers and how terrible they were. And I walk out, and a reporter from Fox News walked right up to me, stuck a microphone in my face, and started asking me about what did I think about what happened to some student over at Lathrop on the wrestling team that day. Like, I know what's going on, at wrestling practice, okay? But I'm the president, so it comes to me. So, those things happen under your watch, but it's like, how am
Well,
I
you
supposed to know what's happening at
fall on
wrestling
your
practice?
sword.
Now, and so you were not briefed, right? That's what you're saying, is that you were not briefed about that situation.
They knew more about it than I did.
But
Okay?
did you know anything about it though?
Nothing.
All
Zero.
right. So what was your answer? No comment.
I said, no, that's not what I said. But
Correct. But that would have been the way to handle that. So the key point though is it happened on her watch. She's got 30 years of service. She's going to be able to get a retirement
A healthy
and
retirement
move on.
package.
and move on.
And move on.
However, it goes back to it happened on her watch. And that's why the U.S. Olympic Committee is asking every gymnast board member to step down. Why? Because this happened on their watch. And that's the consequence of this happening on your watch,
And
unfortunately.
That's how it goes.
Okay, Sierra, the singer, the beautiful singer, who's married to Russell Wilson, the quarterback.
Of the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, she's telling women, and she could really answer this for you, to level up. Why don't you explain to the audience basically what Sierra's doing?
My mic goes down.
So
No, because you all.
no,
I
because
want
you're a smart man.
No, you all gonna have.
um, it's this actually saddened me. It did. I was shocked by it because I'm actually a big fan of Sierra's. I'm a big fan of Sierra. I'm a big fan from her whole transition. But here once again, today is several seats day. I need Sierra to have several seats as well
Right.
because Miss Goody My Goodies. Her number one hit was
Was
called My
my
Goodies.
goodies.
And then
And
the
her
next one was with her. I can't remember the name of the song, but I remember the video because, I wanted to roll just like Sierra
because she
back in
could
college
she
because
could
she
do
could
she
do it.
right.
And she, rolling up and down on the car, take her from there to now use future baby mama.
Right.
And I'm only saying baby mama because I don't really like that term from a perspective. It is what it is. But I'm saying it because if you're going to if you coming for people, if you want to drag single women because you feel like now you done got this
Now you're a
Uber,
Puritan.
you're a Puritan because you done took off your crop top and put on a long dress and sized up where your son's father, ma'am, preaches about on his songs about popping mollies. So I'm not judging Sierra from her being there, but what I don't like, which is the same reason why Aisha Curry makes my skin crawl, is because the simple fact that I don't like when women pit women against each other, and it's drowned in patriarchal, misogynistic theories.
Tell everybody what a molly is.
A molly, it's like I think, I don't know personally, I just think it's like a hype. Isn't like a concentrated form of like
Right.
Coke or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in lean and all this other stuff, my perspective is it saddens me where women have to get to a certain level, and then in order to validate where you're at, you have to drag another woman's perspective
And
down.
you have to say, and it was based on something this preacher was saying, where they want you to you have to be a certain type of woman
And
to get a husband
So-
and all this.
I'm going to say this last point, and then I want to ask a question to the gentleman.
Yes.
Because here's my thing. As I said with Aisha Curry, she preaches about being conservative. And I just had this conversation with a couple of my girlfriends. I have nothing but, I don't have any problem with a woman wanting to be conservative. I think if that's your style, and if you feel like that's sexy, or if you feel like that's beautiful, by all means, embrace that. But don't sit here and look at me less than because I want to wear thigh high boots, or because I want to wear a crop top, or because I want to cut my hair off. I mean, we want to go into the same perspective of this whole theory of the preacher talking about what the Proverbs 31 woman is. Definitely not, because according to the Bible, or according to Christian values, and I grew up a PK kid, I can't shave my head, I can't cut none of this, earrings, red hair, you a Jezebel, red lipstick.
Right.
So I want to know exactly what the spirit of a girlfriend is. And the pure fact, and this is my last thing, because it really irked my skin, for her to put it from a perspective of her hashtag was level up, as if the level I'm on is not good enough.
Right.
Here's the thing, and here's the problem is my big thing with Single Black Chick on my blog. You will never find happiness in life till you find happiness where you're at.
With yourself.
There are a lot of women, 51%, because I looked it up last night, 51% of women that are in a Christian-based church are single. So whatever you preaching, sir, that Sierra is out here spouting from the perspective, not saying that the scripture itself is wrong, but the perspective that you're putting on it is not working, because it's still women sitting up in the church waiting on some man to come and rescue them, versus being in the perspective of, I love myself, I love my life, I am happy, I am living, I am fulfilled, and thereby I attract that.
And I just want to say this little part. Some women put their happiness, and they want this man so that they could put their happiness in his hands.
Because
Go on.
been married, been single, been the woman that asked my first lady, why at 25 I'm still not married, as if there was something lacking in me. Got married, got divorced, single again, to only sit here and tell you that marriage ain't the mountaintop. It's the beautiful thing. It is in the right perspective with the right person. It is. But we as women have to stop thinking that marriage is the mountaintop and being single is a curse. Until you change your mindset on that, you're never going to be allowed to allow real love in your life. And Sierra, honey, ain't doing it.
Your question to the guys?
What is the spirit of the girlfriend versus the spirit of the wife?
Hmm. Uh, Being that I've been married for 32 years, I don't remember. I've been,
He like just my
I,
wife.
I
Ask
have
her.
been, I have been married longer than I haven't been married now. So here it is. I always hear people talking about, relationships being 50-50 and like that. If you're going into a 50-50 relationship, you are going to fail right now because you're talking about half a person with another half of a person. Relationships are 100-100. I know that I'm a 100% person, and so is my wife. And that's probably the reason that we've been married as long as we have. Because when it comes down to it, I could be worth $1 billion, okay, and sliding off the side of a hill, a mountain, okay. I know my wife gonna grab me and she's gonna pull me back up because it's never been about anything but us covering each other's back.
Right, and fitting in where necessary.
All right,
Ellis.
let me address this here. I've been married, single, married, single.
And
This is
married.
my third marriage now.
Congratulations.
And I agree with you. Marriage is what you make it. Now, two people have to come to that table with happiness in mind. There is never going to be a happy marriage. The spirit of a girlfriend. Most guys want their wives to be their girlfriend.
Every day.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, most of them do. And most listen, quiet as it's kept, most women want their husband to be their boyfriend. Because the romance part. I remember when I started dating my wife, she said the most important thing to me is the romance side. Now, romance is not when y'all turn the lights out. Romance is calling, leaving her sticky, letting her know that, hey, babe, I can't wait for you to get home tonight. It may be just to sit in front of a fireplace and have a nice conversation. But romance. So when she said that part about leveling up, you were supposed to be upset, and you articulated that perfectly.
Absolutely.
Sorry, it's a
Like
passion
the,
point.
like the professor says, I can add nothing to that part of which has already been said because
Right.
you said it.
Right.
And so, yes, we want both. And I think that's true for everybody. Women want a boyfriend who are married or single. You want somebody who lets you know, as you said about your wife, she's going to pull me back up the side of that mountain. That's what you want. Now, why did I get a divorce? Why did you get a divorce? Why,
Why did I get a
Yes.
divorce?
because we didn't feel like we were getting that hand up.
Mm-hmm.
So in the absence of a hand up, we found that hand someplace else. Or we never found the hand. We're still looking for that hand. Back to the whole church piece. The Bible can be used as a sword. It can cut your neck off. Or it can be used as a protection. It can threaten people and just make them scared and they run away. They marched around Jericho just marching. They didn't ever invade anybody. They got afraid and left. So with that in mind, you can use the Bible to lift people up, or you can use it to tear people down. I choose to use it to lift people up. And if ministers are doing that, then more power to those ministers.
And nobody gets married for it to fail.
No.
Because you look at it, but when you see another person that you're living with kind of failing you or trying to put you down on a certain level, I believe that people in relationships should lift each other up as opposed to being intimidated and putting that person
And
down.
if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. And don't mess it up for the other person. I remember when they first came out with, what do you call the little underbody things that just shape you?
Body suits?
The shapers.
Body shapers.
Yeah. I remember a friend's wife, she was going to go out with her friends and she put the shape on and he looked at her and he said, that's fake. And she said, don't mess this up for me.
Mm.
And he called me and he's talking to me about it. And I said, I agree with her. Let her have her night with her girlfriend.
Right.
If she wanna have a curve, let her have that curve.
Right.
If you want her to wear the curve, what you say, can you put that on when we go out?
Well,
But
we
you know
have-
what? Oh, go ahead.
Let's
No,
get
go
that.
ahead, go
Take
ahead.
that quick call. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Uh-huh.
Listen, the young lady that was doing the comment about the single and the marriage and things.
Yes.
Yes, I do believe there are people that come to the church. They go into church. They meeting other single people. But one thing we can say, God ordained marriage, and it's honorable. So it's a good thing, And as you just said, Ms. Pierce, no, we don't marry to break up. When we get married, we feel like we're going to be there forever. But marriage was ordained by God. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me clarify because I often get this perspective, and it's often why I always throw in I'm a preacher's kid, like straight old school apostolic. Know the Bible off the still Bible Bowl scholar. So I don't pit myself against whether marriage is right or not right or XYZ. Those are things that I leave for people in their own personal opinion, your own personal belief. I believe in you being able to move and function in whatever that you want, if whether you want to get married, whether you don't. So I'm not saying it from that perspective. What I want to be clear on is, if you are in the mind state of wanting to get married, I don't like, and what's sad, I'm used to it from men. I'm used to it from men. What disturbed me about Sierra is her positioning. It's like me. I'm boasting all this right now, and then I go and I say you need to level up. It's not a certain type of wife. People are varied and people are different. There is no cookie cutter thing. There's no cookie cutter relationship. That's why when people ask me as far as being a relationship expert, I be like, hey, I'm not. I'm a relationship experiencer, because what I am, my personality is very different from yours, very different from yours. Whom I may attract or who I might be in elk with or like-minded with is mine. It doesn't make me wrong.
Well,
It doesn't make me not a wife because I may want to act this way or my thought patterns is this way. It doesn't make her more of a wife because hers is this way.
well, let me just tell you this. My first marriage was about 14 years, I guess, something like that. It was a long time ago. And anyway, when I was getting a divorce, I was in my 30s, and they said, but you'll be getting a divorce. You'll never find anybody. It wasn't about finding somebody. I had three young children who I didn't want growing up looking at this marriage as the pattern for their lives. So they said, how you going to find some men? Don't, just go for women that, like I was so old, but I wasn't worried. I had to fend. It was about me.
No,
It
and
was about me. It's about me living a healthy life so I could show my children a healthy lifestyle. Then I did get married again. And I said, wow, I beat the odds. I got married again. It's different for a woman than it is for a man.
and that's my point. It's because I could talk about this all day. It's my 2 points on that. I don't like that. That's the whole. It's socialized that it is something wrong with you as a woman if you're not married,
Oh,
or
I've
if
seen
you
it. I've seen
or
it.
if you
And
don't
yeah.
have kids. And it's part of that is because we receive that from a social perspective. I could actively be happy. I'm single right now. I'm actively happy in my life. I have people that are in my life. Maybe I'll get married one day. It's not the focus, it's not the goal. The goal is to be happy in my life where I'm at, because the reality is I may be single for the rest of my life. So that does that mean I'm never going to be happy again
No, it
until I get
doesn't.
married? The one thing I do love that you said is the two holes. I wrote an article, and it's something that I talk about a lot when I go and speak on relationship panels. It's called Swiss Cheese Love. When you being single means being whole and complete within yourself. You up here, a lot of times we're out here trying to fill ourselves or our holes with another person. Swiss cheese love. I'm trying to match my holes up to
Well,
your holes
I'd
and seeing
say,
XYZ, where we should be equally whole, coming
and
together
I tell
and
you,
being a
that's
person.
what
I
people
mean, being a
do.
unit.
They put the responsibility of their happiness in someone else's hands, and that is so unfair to that other person. Some people say, "Oh, I'm married. Now I could just sit back."
Hmm.
You can't do that. We have a call. Tim, good morning.
Hi, how you doing?
Oh,
I
fine.
had a regarding the women. If the woman if the woman looks like a man with earrings on, how does she expect to get her husband?
Okay, explain that a little more.
Yeah, please do.
Explain that, Tim. Is he gone?
All
Oh,
right, so let me just say this here. Everybody's attracted to what they're attracted to. Somebody out there for everybody. Now, will everybody get married? No. Some people, I've got clients, male clients who, I use one specific one. He lost his wife 15 years ago, and as soon as she died, he had a chicken dinner brought to him that night.
right.
So, but he loved his wife with such depth that he hadn't had anyone come close. And finally, I've listened to him whine and complain about wanting a good woman for years, and he finally met somebody who gets him excited. So some people the standard is just so high that they'll never meet anybody that they can embrace. Now, the gentleman's statement: look like a man with earrings.
Acts like a man with earrings.
Dude, for
Right.
real.
I grew up with boys. I have guy friends who tell me I'm slightly an anomaly with the way I think, as far as being a girl. I grew up with four boys. However, here's the thing, and I'll put it out here. I have a little bit more of some people may say what they call mannish ways as far as my thinking or my attitude. Yet and still, I've been engaged 4 times and married once. So it doesn't have anything to do with a perspective of what. That's the thing we got to get away from. What is
Stereotypes.
right? What is the stereotype of what a woman or a wife looks like versus a girlfriend? I'm a woman that has a lot of different characteristics and qualities, and I'm gonna match and I'm not meant for everybody. Nobody is. It's a personal preference. There is no stereotype to what a woman or a wife is.
Absolutely.
And that's
not.
why leveling up. My level is higher than Sierra's, if we gonna call it Sierra level up.
You know, she reminds me of a born again Christian who was out in the streets and
Oh,
doing
yeah,
every
yeah.
kind of
That
thing,
is true.
and then becomes gets born again, and she's putting down everything that she used to be, as opposed to trying to
Lift up other
lift
people.
up
Or
other
somebody that
people.
hit the lottery and all of a sudden now they,
Now you new money.
Right.
Well, I'll be chasing after you. No, I'm kidding. Everybody know money doesn't make the man.
I don't want
Or the
women to
woman.
really buy into this whole perspective because, and especially from
They'll be disappointed.
they will be because I know women that are in the church that are actively changing their perspectives or acting different ways. And I'll share personally, I understand how it feels to be in a marriage and live for the perspective of what you feel that man's expectations of you are or is versus who you truly are. And that can't last long. That's not happiness. Happiness is finding, and I mean, that's the thing. We're looking so outside. We're looking for marriage. We're looking like, once I get married, then I'm gonna be happy. And then I'm gonna be, no, you need to be happy with yourself.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, okay, and probably the reason that I've been married, as long as I have, my parents divorced when I was 8 years old. And that was such a devastating thing to me. And I just never saw myself, being married as a child, okay? I didn't get married until I was 30 years old. So being married at 30, I had a totally different perspective. I knew that if I didn't change and commit, that my family would never be the same. That somebody had to step up and be the anchor for the family, okay? I was committed to family. And that was and I married somebody who was committed to family. I married into a great family, okay? And it just extended all of that for me. That's how I was able to raise up my boys the way I did.
Well, it's time for the end of the show. I just hate that because this is such an igniting, and you being a newlywed for the third time, I wanted to be able to get into that and her qualities. What made you, what are the things that made you want?
I married a PK kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Hey, hey, PK.
PK.
We got a realistic view.
Okay. Everybody, thank you. Next week, we're doing guests on the Table Talk Hour, but you'll really like these guests. And then we'll be back with Table Talk in 2 weeks. So thank you for joining us and have a wonderful weekend and enjoy. Thank you, guys.